Goswamis of Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Radha Kund Shama Kund Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ekachakra Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Iskon Vatmanuguri ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glory is to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva naroptamam Devim sarasvatim vyasam Tato jayam udirayed Shrinvatam svakata Krishnaha Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Good morning, dear devotees. Today we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 16, titled, here we go, The Doorkeepers Cursed by the Sages. And today, of course, is text 7. Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra renum Zadyakshata kilamalam pratilabda shilam Nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha Prekshaya lavati itare niyamam vahanti Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra renum Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabda shilam Nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha Preksha lavarta itare niyaman vahanti Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra renum Zadyakshata kilamalam pratilabda shilam Nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha Preksha lavarta itare niyaman vahanti Prabhus, please. Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabdha shilam. Nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha. Preksha itare niyaman vahanti. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabdha shilam. Nashir viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha. Prekshalavata itare niyamam vahanti. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabdha shilam. Nashi viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha. Prekshalavata itare niyaman mahanti. Mataji's, please. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabdha shilam. Nashi viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha. Prekshalavata itare niyaman vahanti. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalam pratilabdha silam. Nashri viraktam apimam vijahati yasyaha. Prekshalavata itare niyamam vahanti. Word by word, yat, of whom, sevaya, by the service, charana, feet, padma, lotus, pavitra, sacred, renum, the dust, sadyaha, immediately, kshata, wiped out, akila, all, malam, sins, pratilabdha, acquired, shilam, disposition, na, not, shihi, the goddess of fortune, viraktam, have no attachment, api, even though, mam, me, vijahati, leave, yasyaha, of the goddess of fortune, preksha lava artaha, for obtaining a slight favor, itare, others like Lord Brahma, niyaman, sacred vows, Vahanti, observe. Translation and divine purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees. My lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin. And I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her, and others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight favor. Purport. The relationship between the Lord and his devotee is transcendently beautiful. As the devotee thinks that it is due to his being a devotee of the Lord that he is elevated in all good qualities, so the Lord also thinks that it is because of his devotion to the servitor that all his transcendental glories have increased. In other words, as the devotee is always anxious to render service to the Lord, so the Lord is ever anxious to render service to the devotee. The Lord admits herein that although he certainly has the quality that anyone who receives a slight particle of the dust of his lotus feet becomes at once a great personality. This greatness is due to his affection for his devotee. It is because of this affection that the goddess of fortune does not leave him, and that not only one, but many thousands of goddesses of fortune engage in his service. In the material world, simply to get a little favor from the goddess of fortune, people observe so many rigid regulations of austerity and penance. The Lord cannot tolerate any inconvenience on the part of the devotee. He is therefore famous as Bhakta Vatsala. So as you can see, it's a very beautiful purport today. So starting in the correct manner. Oma gyantimirandasya gyanangana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Caitanya manobishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati svapadantikam vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatadine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavembhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome, dear devotees, to this divine transcendental Bhagavatam class. And today, what a thing to be talking about, the lotus feet of Krishna. As we can see in this beautiful verse, it's discussing about the lotus feet. So why do devotees have the lotus feet as such a high emblem in Krishna consciousness? So this is explained in Ramananda Roy's talks with Lord Caitanya. So Ramananda Roy has asked the question by Lord Caitanya, what is the best meditation? And Ramananda Roy turns around and says, the best meditation is the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. So today we're going to be discussing the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. We're going to be discussing also, I found two beautiful bhajans, firstly in the Prema Bhakti Chandrika of Narottam Das Thakur, which is Radhika Charana Renu, which is the lotus feet, the dust of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And secondly, there's also a beautiful bhajan written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Radhika Charana Padma, so the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, which is pertinent in this occasion because we're talking about the lotus feet of Krishna. We also, in our reading on the lotus feet, we found a very beautiful reference to Bhaktisiddhanta's interaction with Gorakishora Das Babaji. Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav is a very beautiful book written by Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, and in there it clearly says the situation where Gorakishora Das Babaji placed his lotus feet on top of Bhaktisiddhanta's head, because typically this is a little bit out of the ordinary, because Gorakishora Das Babaji generally forbade anyone from touching his feet, but Bhaktisiddhanta was bestowed that benediction, and so then after that it was explained Bhaktisiddhanta's personal words were, "I lost bodily consciousness for 1 whole year after Gorakishora Das Babaji put his lotus feet on his head." So complete loss of bodily consciousness. That's the power of the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. So essentially, if we understand the importance of the lotus feet, if we research Bhakti, the Macmillan version of Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-Gita, over 33 pages, it's written about the lotus feet of Krishna. So therefore it's very important. And then if you search the Bhaktivedanta archives and the folio of the BBT, indeed 892 pages have got written the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's a lot of instances we're talking about the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, and so as a result of that we get bestowed with benedictions, and we can, this is a very irregular situation where one not ordinary man, Gorakishora Das Babaji, and also a not ordinary man, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had that interaction with the dust on the lotus feet. However, even to this day, as us trying to become devotees of the Lord, we can certainly approach our spiritual master, try and get the dust of his lotus feet. It's written that there's 3 very transcendental things: the dust of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, the remnants left by him after he takes prasadam, and there's also one more which I've forgotten at this present point in time. So going to the Bhagavad-Gita, indeed, in the glorification or the beginning of the introduction of the Bhagavad-Gita, it says, Sri Caitanya manobishtam stapitam yena bhutale swam rupa kadamayam dadati sva padantikam. So he's talking about the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami. When will I get the mercy of the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami? Therefore I can become empowered to spread this movement of Lord Chaitanya. So the lotus feet are very important, not only of Krishna, but also of his empowered devotees. So in our mood is to essentially pray for devotional service to the lotus feet. And then you may ask, well, what is service to the lotus feet? As we know, Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says there's 9 different types of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atya Nivedanam. So the 4th one, Padasevanam. What does that involve? So we found a lecture on Bhagavad-Gita 9.2-3 by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And he defines Padasevanam is to rise early in the morning, open the door of the temple and wipe it out, all the dust, and give some light. So this is Padasevanam, rendering devotional service, mopping the floor of the temple, indeed even blowing the leaves or collecting the leaves in the car park. This is Padasevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna. Because indeed it requires humility. It requires a sense that I'm not the controller. I want to be controlled by Krishna. Therefore, I want to be rendering loving devotional service to him. Sevanam is cleaning the temple. So furthermore, Sevanam also means worshipping Tulsi Maharani. So if we have a house and we have a nice situation where we can grow Tulsi Maharani very nicely, we know that the manjaris that come from the Tulsi plant can be placed on the lotus feet of Krishna, and therefore this is Padasevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna. And it also means to serve the devotees. So when we give our prasadam to the devotees, this is Padasevanam. And then when we make arrangements to travel to holy pilgrimage sites such as the holy dhams, this is parikram. So this is indeed also Padasevanam. So you see the great Babajis in Vrindavan and Govardhan Hill who can manage 3 Govardhan parikrams every day, which is 75 kilometers of walking. They're doing this because it's Padasevanam, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. So we can bring flowers, tulsi, offer them to the lotus feet of the Lord, because why do we do that? Because Krishna's lotus feet are very beautiful, so beautiful. The most beautiful girls in the whole of creation, the gopis, want to hold Krishna's lotus feet to their chest. So Krishna's lotus feet are so beautiful. They're marked with the conch shell, the lotus flower, so many beautiful other symbols of love. And when the gopis see these footprints, they say, "Where is my Krishna? Where is he now?" That's their mood, crying out. And indeed, we know Srinivasacharya has given us the beautiful Sad Goswami Ashtakam. And he sings, "Hey Radhe, Vrajadevike Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suno Kutaha, Goshantaviti Sarvato Vrajapure, Kedervava Vivalo, Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Pakale, Kalindi Vane Kutaha, Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo, Shri Jiva Gopalako." So they're crying out, "Where is my Radharani? Where is my Krishna?" So indeed, when we look at that, it's amazing because we think to ourselves, as devotees, we can be crying out for the service of the lotus feet of the divine couple. But we know that Krishna, his duty is to perform the same activity, because Krishna is also crying out for the service of Srimati Radharani, which we found here in the Caitanya Charitamrita. It was Srimati Radharani, Krishna crying out for the service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. So the Radhika Charana Padma of Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins with Radhika Charana Padma Sakala Shreyera Sadma Jatane Ne Nahi Aradilo. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, he who has failed to carefully worship the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika, which are the abode of all auspiciousness, he who has not taken shelter in the transcendental abode known as Vrindavan, which is decorated with the beautiful lotus flower named Radha. So without taking shelter of the lotus feet of Radha, one can never personally meet Lord Krishna. The Vedic scriptures declare that Krishna is the property of the maidservants of Sri Radha. So this is what this verse is telling us here about Krishna becomes devoted to his servant. It's not such a situation where everyone heaps their love onto Krishna, everyone showers him with so much bhajan, so much chanting, so much worship, and he does nothing in return. Krishna is not an ingrate. He responds according to the level of love and devotion we have for him with the same love and devotion for us. It's a relationship. It's a very beautiful relationship. And we should be very grateful to have heard about the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's also explained that where does the Ganga come from? The Ganga comes from the lotus feet of the Lord. So essentially, as it's explained in the introduction to the Bhagavad-Gita, the lotus feet, the Bhagavad-Gita is even more important than the Ganges, which flows from the lotus feet of the Lord. So that's why Prabhupada is telling us here in this verse that all pain can go away after we just remember the lotus feet of the Lord. And one practical application of this is we can go and take bath in the Ganga. because as it's explained here, then all our sins will go away as a result of taking bath in the Ganga. So this flows from the lotus feet of the Lord. Also another very beautiful part of the Bhagavad-Gita, it says, Deva Rishi Bhutaptanrinam Pitrinam Na Kinkaro Nyam Rini Na Charajan Sarvatma Ya Sharanam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Pari Hritya Kartam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. So that's showing the importance of the lotus feet of Lord Mukunda. He's the giver of liberation. And we can take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda. And it's not only a literal thing, so not like we get an umbrella with lotus feet of the Lord and then we shelter ourselves with the umbrella. It's also figurative and it's also metaphorical, that we in all humility pray to the lotus feet of the Lord, that he may bestow his benedictions on us of humility, enthusiasm, confidence, and freedom from offenses. There's a very beautiful section of Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Srila Sanatana Goswami, and he says in there there's many effects of namaparad. So if someone's chanting inattentively, any one of the 10 offenses are part of that individual's chanting, then we become absorbed in materialism. If there's any trace of offensiveness in our chanting, so we become tired rather than enthusiastic, demonstrating confidence. We become tired. We become not desirous of hearing the holy names of the Lord. So these are the consequences of namaparad. So we should be very careful to be free from the nama aparads of the Lord, because Lord Krishna is the giver of liberation. He can grant us the mercy of his lotus feet, and indeed we should be praying life after life, we can surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, as we understood, so many devotees do Govardhan Parikram of the Lord. And so there's an interesting story where one devotee went up and saw one Babaji and he was doing one Govardhan Parikram every single day. And so then that devotee said, please give me the dust of your lotus feet. I want to be such a great surrendered devotee like you. You're performing so much wonderful Padasevanam. Please give me your blessings, give me your benedictions. And then so the Babaji said, well actually if you walk down the road there's a little Bhajan Kutir, and that devotee is far more advanced spiritually than I. So perhaps you could go to him and ask him for the same blessings and benedictions, because I'm very fallen, I'm very sinful, I have no good qualities to give to you. So indeed this devotee walked to the next Bhajan Kutir down the road, and he asked the same question, and he said to the Babaji, who was now doing 2 Govardhan Parikrams every day, and he said, please give me blessings, please give me mercy, such that I can be such an inspired, enthusiastic devotee of the Lord like you. And so then in the same way, the Babaji turned to him and he said, you know, like, I'm so fallen, I'm so sinful and wretched, I have no good qualities, therefore I can bestow no benedictions upon you. Just walk down the corner, and on the next corner is another Bhajan Kutir. Perhaps you could ask the head Mahant there for the same blessing and benediction. So eventually he went to this one devotee, who's a very old devotee, doing 3 Govardhan Parikrams, walking 75 kilometers every single day. And so humble, so much humility. As soon as he saw the devotee approach him for blessings and mercy, the devotee chanted Radhe Radhe. And so, as we know from Stavavali of Raghunath Das Goswami, anyone who chants the lotus name of Radharani even once, Raghunath Goswami says, I will wash his feet and drink the nectar that emanates from his feet. So that's the mood of Raghunath Das Goswami. So much humility that even just chanting the holy names of the Lord once, then he's willing to wash his feet. So that is how we have to be in our spiritual consciousness, so much humility. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Sharanagati, which is his explanation of what is surrender. So when we look at surrender, we understand 1866 of Bhagavad-Gita, Sarva Dhamman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sava Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Ma Shuchaha. Krishna is telling Arjuna in the pinnacle of the Bhagavad-Gita, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me only. Mam, unto me, ekam, one. So Krishna is telling us. Krishna is telling us through Arjuna and the pure devotee of the Lord, we can surrender to Krishna. Indeed, Bhakti Vikash Maharaj gave a beautiful lecture in recently, and he was saying it's actually the Guru's responsible to help in the surrender to Krishna. So the Guru's duty is to help in surrender to Krishna. So we might ask, what are the qualities of those individuals who have surrendered? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur teaches us this to us in Sharanagati. And he said, firstly, there will be humility. So as we know, Lord Caitanya teaches us, Trinadapi Sunichena Taro Api Sahishnana Amadina Maradina Kirtanaya Sarahiri Hari. So thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, becoming more tolerant than the tree, then we can really chant the holy names of the Lord continuously, which we're all aspiring for. So this characteristic of humility is the first demonstration of a surrendered individual. Secondly, there'll be enthusiasm. So when there's, oh, hey, come on, there's a Vyasa Puja offering. Do you want to come? Oh, no, I'm sleepy. I've got work to do. But that's the not surrendered devotee. The surrendered devotee, yeah, I've already worked 12 hours today. I'm prepared, Vyasa Puja. I just want to say something to Guru Maharaj. So enthusiasm, even in spite of tiredness. And thirdly, there's also confidence. Rupa Goswami says confidence must be present in our spiritual lives. We must be confident. We must be expecting the mercy of the Lord. Very beautifully, Mahatma Prabhu gave a wonderful class about, humility is not low self-esteem. So some people, speak to themselves so critically, above their level of realization, and then as a result of that, they get low self-esteem. But humility is actually very high self-esteem. It's a lot of confidence. The most humble people in the world that we know sit on the altar there, our Guru Parampara, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Raghunath Das Goswami was paying dandavats to Vaishnavas 1,000 times a day. So he'd find 1,000 separate Vaishnavas. This is over 500 years ago when Radhakund was not very well populated with people. Now it's quite a busy district where you can easily find 1,000 devotees with Vaishnav Tilak. But 500 years ago it was quite difficult. He had to travel sometimes to Varshana, sometimes to Sevakunj in Vrindavan, sometimes to Nidhivan, sometimes to Bahulavan, completely different forests on the other side of the Jamuna River, in order to find that 1,000 devotees to pay obeisances. We say in the morning, Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Indu Sevya. We're asking for benedictions from the devotees, and Raghunath Das Goswami was very much empowered to pay obeisances to all the devotees. So essentially, the lotus feet of the Lord are very beautiful. It's explained also that his lotus feet are soft, very soft. Krishna's whole skin is very soft, that when even if a leaf falls from the tree and it lands on Krishna's skin, it leaves an impression or a slight bruise. So Krishna's lotus feet were as soft as a lotus flower. Anyway, he proceeded for a very long distance on foot. So we understand that Sita understands this softness of even her Ram's lotus foot. When he's exiled from Ayodhya, Sita says to Ram, I will walk first and I will trample the ground so that no thorns get into your feet. Such is the love for the lotus feet of Ram, because we know Keshava Drita Rama Sharira Jaya Jaya Deva Hari. So Ram is an incarnation. The Dash Avatar Stotram of Jayadev Goswami explains that Ram is an incarnation of Krishna. So Ram had these soft feet as well. Sita walked first, wanted to walk first, and then Ram overcame her enthusiasm and confidence for service to him, and then Ram carried her on the back into the forest. So it's very beautiful. When we were recently in Vrindavan, we had the wonderful quality of listening to a lot of the Braj Vasa language. And so there's so much, the devotees really there are glorifying Vraj Mandal, the arena of the rasa dance, and they're glorifying the Prince of Vraja, Sri Krishna, and his opulences, his grand variety of joy, and also Giriraj Govardhan. So one of the favorite pastimes of the Brijvasis is the lifting of the Govardhan hill. So why is this important in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya? Because essentially Krishna satisfied all of the devotees. They wanted to look lovingly at Krishna for extended periods of time. This was found in Srila Prabhupada even as a young boy when he first went to the Radha Govinda temple. He was only 6 or 7 years old. He stood in front of the deities for 6 hours taking darshan and wanted more. His parents had to come and take him and bring him back to the home. Prabhupada, I want to see Radha Govinda. So much love for the deities. So the Brijvasis have this same mood. I want to see Krishna's lotus feet. I don't want to be satiated by the lotus feet of Krishna. I want to see them more. When the curtain closes, I'll feel separation. I'll see, where's the lotus feet of Krishna? So this is the mood of the Vraj Gopis. And when Krishna was holding up the lotus Govardhan hill, the Vraj Gopis had an opportunity to take darshan of Krishna for 7 days and 7 nights consecutively. So this is the mood of the service to the devotees. Krishna reciprocates. The Vraj Gopis are crying out, when will I see the lotus feet of Krishna? And Krishna reciprocates for 7 days and 7 nights. Which by our standards, that's a lot of time. A lot of us can't stay awake for 1 night, let alone 7 days and 7 nights. But the Vraj Gopis could do that. And indeed, these pastimes, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, are spread out such that that lifting of Govardhan Hill could be 311 trillion 700 billion years past, because that's the nature. The time factor is not present there in the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are the words of Ramananda Rai. He who always meditates on the lotus feet and of Radha and Krishna is the best meditator. So meditating on the qualities of the lotus feet, the beauty, the presence of the lotus feet, he is the best meditator. So Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, travelled on board the Jaladuta, which was in 1965, in order to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master to preach Krishna consciousness in the world, in the Western countries. So it's really interesting that today in this verse we're talking about the lotus feet of Krishna, and Prabhupada titled his bhajan that he wrote on board the Jaladuta, the prayer unto the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna taba punya habe bai, e punya kori be jare, radharani kushi habe, juvi ati boli tomatai. So this is the pure devotee, the eternally perfect Srila Prabhupada, on board the Jaladuta, where he had 2 heart attacks at a very advanced age. He was born in 1896, and so that makes him 69 by the time he left in 1965. And so he had a heart attack. Srila Prabhupada was living a very humble existence on board the Jaladuta. He wasn't in first class, he was in like the baggage class. And so we can be incredibly grateful. We can think, oh, I'm not traveling in the first class car, I'm not traveling in the most expensive airline. But Prabhupada did it so simply. When he first went, he had to beg the owner of the Jaladuta, please let me aboard, I have to fulfill the desire of my spiritual master. Bhakti Caitanya Swami reads Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita very beautifully, and he explains that Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj said that outside the office of the owner of the Jaladuta, Srila Prabhupada had to wait for 7 hours on the steps, not invited inside, here's a comfortable chair to sit. I see you're a distinguished gentleman with a danda wearing sannyas cloth, come and sit. No, he waited outside on the street with the dogs, outside the office of the Jaladuta, in order to preach to the preach to the Western countries. If we go to C.C. Antya-lila chapter 7, text 137, Aparada chadikara Krishna sankirtana achirat pabe tabe krishnere charana. abandoning your offenses, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the holy names of the Lord, then very soon you will achieve shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So here Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing the chanting of the holy names, and then we will receive shelter. So why do we want shelter? The shelter of lotus feet of Krishna guarantees protection. It guarantees no more birth, sickness, old age and death. No more janma, no janma, mridyu, jara vyadi. No more birth, sickness, old age and death. That we take the shelter of the holy names. That's why we're chanting. We take the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. We can think to ourselves, Goloka Vrindavan is so far away. How do I get there? I can't travel there on my own. We accept the lotus feet of Krishna. He can easily take us there. It's explained that we chant the holy names of the Lord, accept the shelter of his lotus feet, and the entire material causeless ocean becomes like the water in a calf's hoof print. So small, anyone, even a little 6-year-old girl can jump over the water in a calf's hoof print. Not even a cow. A cow's hoof print is a little bit bigger, a tiny little calf's hoof print. Then that's the entire material causeless ocean if we've taken the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. So we're very fortunate to be hearing about the devotees of the Lord who have taken the lotus feet of the Lord on their head, such as it's explained here, Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Srivas Pandit, Gadadhara Pandit, Svarup Damodar, Murari Gupta, Haridas Thakur, and all the other devotees of Sri Krishna Caitanya, bowing down with devotion, hold the lotus feet on my head. I hold their lotus feet on my head. So this is Lord Chaitanya saying, not only have they taken the dust, these wonderful devotees of the Lord, taken the dust of Krishna Chaitanya on their head, but Krishna bows down in devotion to them. This is the nature of the reciprocation of the love. So if devotees get the chance to perform Padasevanam, there's a very beautiful temple in Vrindavan called Ranganath or Rangaji. And it's beautifully explained that Rangaji pays rent to Radha Raman. And so just near there's the courtyard which has the 64 samadhis. So all these advanced devotees, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Shri Jiva Goswami, all of the main confidentialist devotees, in fact the 64 most confidential devotees have their samadhis in Vrindavan near the Ranganath temple. Devotees can go there, they can seek blessings, and the most beautiful thing there is there's the lotus feet of these devotees. Some of them are the real, like Lord Nityananda, where he placed an imprint on a rock. Then we can see that for ourselves. And His Holiness Indrajumna Swami recently had the great fortune of visiting the Jarikan forest. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in the Jarikan forest are very famous amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, predominantly for his ability to melt the rocks there. So it's explained that Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet was so sweet, so beautiful, so much endowed with love of Radha and Krishna, that merely touching a rock in the Jarikan forest, it caused the rock to melt. So this is the same situation for us, that when we have steel frames, stone-hearted hearts, that we take the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna Chaitanya, He will put His lotus feet on our hearts, and our hearts will be melted. The rock-like steel frame of our hearts will be melted, similar to the rocks in the Jarikan forest. And then it's interesting to see, what did the advanced devotees do when they see or when they take darshan of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya? There's a very beautiful photo of His Holiness Indrajumna Swami laying down in full embrace, fully embracing the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, not wanting to let go. Please don't take me away from this beautiful, the divine, where Lord Chaitanya's foot literally melted the rock. So we can consider ourselves that advancement in Krishna consciousness is very powerful, and then even during this life, Such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. The transcendental ecstatic existence of a devotee was completely exhibited by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So, hearing about the lotus feet of the Lord, it purifies our heart. As we know, Kirtanam, Shravanam and Kirtanam are very powerful forms of devotional service. We can pray to the lotus feet of Krishna that we can remember them, particularly in difficult situations. When we're in the Shanti environment of the temple, which is Vaikuntha, there's not so much yelling, there's not so much aggravation, there's not so much quarrel. It's a bit of a shelter from the outside Kali Yuga, but most important to remember the lotus feet of the Lord when we're in those difficult situations, when arguments are coming, when we're being yelled at by a car or someone driving a car. That's the time to remember the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember humility. As Bhava Vibhushana beautifully quoting from Devamrita Swami about how do we resolve conflict amongst devotees? It's to take the humble path. Always, if someone's angry, they're yelling at you, there is so much in the mode of passion, they're cursing, we take the humble path. We fall down like a rod, with straw between our teeth, paying dandavata obeisances. Please forgive me. It always works. If we think we're the best, if we think, I have the best understanding of Krishna consciousness, I know what Krishna wants, then we have to be engaged in more arguments. Krishna will send more arguments. But we take the shelter of the lotus feet, we become humble, we pray for more humility. We hear about the wonderful humility of the Guru Parampara. Then all our arguments will go. It's explained by Krishna personally speaking to Bhagavad-Gita, to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 12, text 13. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, maitra karuna evacha, nirmamo nirahanka, sama dukkha shukakshami, yo mad bhakta same priyaha. So these are the very dear qualities of the devotees of Krishna. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, never envious to any living entity. No devotee is ever going to say, I want to be Elon Musk, I want to be the richest man in the world. No devotee would say that. Why? Adveshta sarvabhutanam. No envy to any living entity. Maitreya karuna evacha. Friendly to every living entity. Devotee comes to the temple, I want prasadam. We're friends with them. We're friends. There can be embraces, there can be glances, there can be nice discussions. Maitra karuna evacha. Nirmamo. No sense of proprietorship. Devotees don't say, this is my temple. The devotees don't say, this is my seat on the aeroplane. I get to choose when it goes back. Devotees don't say that. That's no sense of proprietorship. What do you own in the bank, Prabhu? Nothing. Krishna owns everything. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Krishna owns everything in the whole three worlds. It's a very beautiful level of understanding. Nirmamo. No sense of proprietorship. Nirahankara. No false ego. No, I'm the greatest. Oh, my kirtans are the best. Oh, my bhajan is the best. Oh, my cooking is the best. No, nirha hankara. Sama, dukkha, shuka, kshami. So same. Happiness comes, same. Distress comes, same. Kshami, forgiveness. Automatic forgiveness. Why? Because we follow the residents of Vrindavan. There's automatic forgiveness. Who is the queen of forgiveness? Srimati Radharani. There's no concept of ever not forgiving someone in the eyes of Srimati Radharani. Radharani will never turn around and say, oh, you fallen conditioned soul, you crossed over Kambi Hill, you went to enjoy in the material world, now you're back, I don't forgive you. Doesn't come out of the words of Srimati Radharani. We don't even have to ask. We do the most heinous crime, automatically forgiven. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad-Gita, he who is rendering devotional service, even if he committed the most heinous crimes, is to be considered saintly because he is rightly situated in his determination. So this is a very beautiful level of understanding. Radharani is the queen of forgiveness. So, Yomad Bhakta Same Priyaha, Bhagavad-Gita 12:13, Krishna is explaining, these devotees are very dear to me. So we can also think, sometimes honor comes, sometimes dishonor comes. Honor comes, it's for one reason or other, oh Prabhu, would you like this fresh, beautiful plate of halva? Okay, that's honor. Dishonor. Prabhu, we've run out of halva. There's no halva left. So this is mama papamanayo. So same. Honor and dishonor is the same for the devotee. So it's very beautiful. Also, we might have devotees don't have any enemies, because Prahlad Maharaj teaches in the Bhagavatam, Canto 7, the devotees that don't see anyone as an enemy or a friend. They see everyone as a servant of Krishna. But someone might think that we're their enemy. So even then, devotees, sama, enemy or friend, same. And this is beautifully shown by the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. The Grihastas, even if an enemy knocks on the door, welcome inside, sit down, take a chair, I'll get you a drink. Perhaps I can wash your feet. Is there anything I can do for you? That's the Grihasta mood. So this is the understanding of sama, kshatru, cha mitre cha. So same towards enemies, same towards friends. So it's very beautiful to understand that even the advanced devotees like Queen Kunti was praying for distressful situations. Duryodhana wickedly said, let's burn the Pandavas in the house of lack. Let's burn them. They deserve to be burnt. So he plotted this scheme, sent them out to a house of lack, decided, let's burn them down. So Queen Kunti was praying to Krishna, and then Krishna arrived in her house. What does Krishna do? He's so beautiful. He's eternally youthful. He knows everything, past, present, and future. Queen Kunti's there. He bows down. He touches Queen Kunti's lotus feet. This is the mood of Krishna. Why does he do that? So we can follow him. Whatever activity a great man performs, other will follow by his example. So many devotees have received the lotus feet of Krishna, and we are aspiring to receive the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Also, Krishna knows that his own lotus feet are worthy of meditation. They're worthy of love. They're worthy of adoration. When is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his discussion on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna, as a baby in the womb of Devaki, was sucking his own toes because he knows his own toes are an object of worship. And that we know Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this is a prelude to the advent of Lord Caitanya. Because in the mood of Radharani, Krishna himself manifests as Lord Caitanya to worship himself. Why? Because his lotus feet are worshipable. So we don't sit to ourselves and think, well, hang on, I can put my own toe in my own mouth, perhaps I should worship my own feet. No, that's not the mood of the Vaishnavas. We have to meditate upon Krishna, Radha and Krishna. So there's so many beautiful pastimes of the lotus feet of Krishna. Prabhupada explained in 1970 that there's over 5,000 temples of Krishna in Vrindavan, with every single one of them has lotus feet of Krishna. And if anyone has the great fortune of visiting Sri Vrindavan Dham, the Krishna Balaram Mandir, there's the Samadhi of Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada, and his lotus feet. Hari Sori was his very dedicated personal servant for 18 months, and his transcendental diaries are very beautifully explained. The difficulties that Hari Sori faced with the long hours of not sleeping, waiting outside Srila Prabhupada's door, hearing a bell ringing, bang, getting in there. Well, how can I serve you, Srila Prabhupada? Becoming so tired he's falling asleep. And then Prabhupada said to him, devotees don't sit down, they stand if they're tired. So this is the mood of Srila Prabhupada with his devotees. Everyone's trying to go for the mercy, the shelter of the lotus feet. So we promised the Prema Bhakti Chandrika of Narottam Das Thakur, Radhika Charana Renu Bhushana Kariyatanu Anayase Pabe Giridhari. One who adorns his body with the dust of the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika will easily get Lord Giridhari. So we want to get the mercy of Krishna, we have to go through Srimati Radharani. We want to get the mercy of Srimati Radharani, we have to go through Srimati Lalita Devi. This is explained in Seva Kunj in Vrindavan. Dukhi Krishnadas was a very humble servitor, sweeping sweeping the path so the pilgrims could come and take darshan of Radha and Krishna. Dukhi Krishnadas sweeping, thinking, when will I get the mercy of Srimati Radharani? The Rasa Lila dance occurs overnight. He comes and finds the most beautiful bracelet that he's ever seen in his whole life. He can't believe it. There's a bracelet there that's effulgent. It's shining. It's amazing. It's beautiful. He doesn't know what it is. He puts it in his pocket. Radharani says, I left my bracelet at Sevakunj. Perhaps you can go there, dear Lalita, and find it for me. She dresses up like an ordinary village girl, approaches the devotees. Have you seen my bracelet? I have a bracelet. I lost my bracelet in Sevakunj. Eventually, she comes across Dukhi Krishnadas, humble servitor, just sweeping. And he says, well, yes, I have found a bracelet, but you look like an ordinary person. How would you afford such a beautiful bracelet? So he says, and then Lalita Devi says, it's actually not mine, it's my friend's. So if you come and see her, then perhaps you'll be able to understand that it really is hers. So Dukhi Krishnadas follows Lalita. And so then this happens, and then Lalita says, before you see my friend, you have to take bath. So then Dukhi Krishnadas takes bath in Lalita Kund. He goes down as Dukhi Krishnadas, he comes up as Shamananda Manjari. This beautiful Manjari in his female form taking bath in Lalita Kund once, and then he's fit to go and take darshan of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani then bestows the benediction upon him. He looks down at his chest, a huge tattoo of Shamananda. So this is how Shamananda Pandit became named. Dukhi Krishnadas was given initiation by Srimati Radharani. He became Shamananda Pandit. Of course, he's an eternal Manjari form, a servitor of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So then at the same time, Radharani placed the bracelet, giving a beautiful tilak for Shamananda Pandit. So this is the mercy of Srimati Radharani. It's divine, it's exquisite, it's greater than we even have the capacity to understand. Gorakishora Das Babaji saying one particle of dust in Vrindavan is worth more than the treasuries of the entire earthly creation. Not only ours, hundreds of millions of universes, even if you got all the combined trillions, quadrillions of dollars, zillions of dollars, not worth one particle of dust in Vrindavan. There's no exchange. Elon Musk can't go to Krishna and say, I'm the richest man in the world, I have $300 billion, perhaps you can give me a particle of dust. There's no transfer. There's no transaction would occur. The transaction we have to do is chanting the holy names of the Lord, then we can get the shelter of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani. So I feel incredibly grateful to have been allowed to give this wonderful class. I promised to speak about, it's in Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav, the exact words Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said, on receiving a touch of the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, which is of course Gorakishora Das Babaji, for the span of 1 year I lost all sense of this external cosmos. I do not know whether any transcendental agent equal to him has ever appeared in this plane. How may those who are preoccupied with worldly lust, anger and so on ever know him? So it's beautiful words from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I feel grateful that I've had the opportunity to speak about the lotus feet of Krishna. So we have a question from Prabhu. Okay, it's a beautiful question and thank you so much for asking. It's a little bit esoteric. Essentially all we have here is just the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav of Bhakti Vikash Maharaj. And so we take the dust of Bhakti Vikash Maharaj's lotus feet on our head because it took him 25 years of dedicated devotional service just to understand about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who had left his material creation for a long time. Essentially, the only thing I could find was page 87 of volume 1 of Bhakti Siddhanta